Okay, welcome everybody. We are actually on page 5. We're looking at Grammar Chart 1-2 in our Azar book, Understanding and Using English Grammar. Right now what we're going to be looking at is how to use the simple present and the present progressive in the affirmative, that means the positive, or in the negative and in question forms. This is very simple for you since this is an advanced grammar class. You probably know most of it, but we'll do something very quickly here. The affirmative is just what will you positively do. I help, they help, we help, he or she, it helps. Okay, for the third person singular, we add that S. And if we want to show that this is an in progress action, we say, and go to the be verb, I am helping, they are helping, she is helping, he is helping. Okay, all this is very, very familiar to you. If we want to put it in the negative, we put the do support in here, and then we put not. Okay, so when we have a regular verb like this, then we use do to help us identify that verb of what you do not do, and we have the negative not. And we always put that before the verb here. So here's our verb help, and we say, I do not help. We don't say, I not help. Because when we have basic action verbs, then we put the do support in there. Same with questions down here. We're going to put the do in front of a regular action verb here. Okay. So for the progressive, to make it negative, we put the not after the be verb. Notice here, not became before the main verb. Here, not comes after the be verb, but before the main verb. So I am not helping. I wouldn't say I not am helping. Right? It has to come after the be verb in the present progressive tense, but before the main verb. Okay? Then we have this whole idea of questions. And when do you use do for questions, and when do you use am or are or is for questions? Now, the chart really doesn't say what the difference between the two are. They just show you the difference, but they don't explain the difference. So I think it's worth our time to figure out what is it and why is it that we have do sometimes and is or are or am other times. Let's go a little bit deeper into the grammar to find out. I'm going to take you over to the PowerPoint here. And I'll put us up into our play mode. And here's the chart you're looking at now. So let's look at the first thing. Do versus be in asking questions. Okay? So the very first thing is when asking a question that involves using an action verb. I run, I skip, I jump, I eat, I talk, any of our action verbs. We're going to use do. Or does if it is in the third person singular, or if you're talking about the past, you'd say did. But right now, we are concentrating on the present tense. Okay, so what's the structure of a question when we use do? The structure is if you use a WH question, you can put it in there like who, what, where, when, why, or how. But we don't have to have a WH question. We can start a question with just do. And of course we could say does if it's third person singular. Then we put our subject. Then we put our base action verb. So let me give you an example of that. This is a WH question, what, followed by do. See that? Here's a WH question, what, followed by do. You want for dinner. Our base action verb is want because that's a desire, right? So that's an action. What do you want for dinner? So that's how we formulate that. We don't say is you want for dinner? Am you want for dinner? Are you want for dinner? The be verb doesn't work here because of this verb want. It is a main action verb. Okay, so we have to use the do. Down here, I'm not going to ask a WH question. I can just say, do you need my help? What is our main action verb here in the base form? Need, right? So here we have do. Notice that, do. Plus the subject. The subject is you, see that? Plus the base action verb, which is need. And then, of course, need has to have an object because you need something, right? So we're going to put an object after that. But the base form of asking the question, which has a action verb, is do plus the subject plus the action verb itself in its base form. Why is it in its base form? Because the do here takes any of the tense. All right, that's using do. Let's take a look at the next slide where we're looking at the be. So here we are. Do versus be in asking questions. So let's look at that. Use a be verb when asking about what follows that be verb below. And there's several. Okay, so here's the structure. Anytime you want to ask a question, you could use the WH, or you can just use the be itself, depending on if you want to ask a WH question, plus the subject, plus any of the following criteria or any of the following types of grammatical structures. So let me show you. If you were asking about age, how old are those children playing the drums? Notice I didn't say, does old those children play the drums? That sounds very strange because I'm asking about age. So anytime I ask about age, we're going to go to a be verb. So this is a WH question. See that? Here's the age, the question of how old they are, okay? Plus the be verb there, plus the subject, children, and whatever it is that follows children. We don't have to have anything follow children. I could say, how old are those children? But I'm just going to add playing the drums. It doesn't have to be there. This doesn't have to be there. But what does have to be there is something to do with age, a WH question if you want it, plus the be verb, plus the subject. And there it is. We also use the be verb in questions when we use an action verb that's in the ing form, which is in the progressive form. If we're going to use that action verb in the progressive tense, then we're going to shift to the be verb. We're no longer going to use do, okay? So, is Pedro going to the movies? Is Miss Daniels teaching right now? Are we going to have dinner tonight? So, we're going to use the be verb plus the main verb go plus ing. So notice that this is in the progressive tense. So since it's a progressive action, we're going to use the be verb. So we're going to pull out the be in front, and then we're going to add the subject, and then we're going to add the verb. Okay? If it's followed by an adjective. So if you're going to ask a question with an adjective, then we're going to use a be verb. So if I ask the question, are you hungry or just angry? Here we have the be verb. See that? I'm not asking a WH question, but here we have the be verb. Here we have the subject, you. And here we have the adjective, hungry and angry. So if you're going to use adjectives, then we're going to go into a be verb. Okay? You may know that as a subject complement. Well, we do that much later in the course, but for those of you a little bit more advanced, anytime we use a subject complement, then we use a be verb anyway. But for now, just know that if an adjective follows, we need the be verb to come out to ask the question. The auxiliary is the be verb. If it's followed by a noun, if you're asking something about a noun, so you might say, is Miss Daniels a teacher? So here's our be verb. Here's our subject, Miss Daniels. And here's the noun right here, a teacher. So if you want to know if what follows is a noun, we're not going to use do. We're going to use the be verb. I wouldn't say, do Miss Daniels a teacher? Does Miss Daniels a teacher? See, that doesn't sound right, does it? Okay. If you have a preposition, where is Michael from? From is the preposition here, see? Now here I'm deciding to ask a WH question. Remember, it's optional, but in this case I'm going to ask a location. So there's my WH question. There's my be verb. There's my subject. There's my preposition. Where's Michael from? Where's the book at? Where are you driving to? So anytime I use a preposition, I'm going to use the be verb. Okay? When asking a question. And finally, we can use an adverb. And when we use an adverb, especially when we're talking about location, then we're going to use the be verb instead of the do. So here's a question. Is the new piano here? Here's my be verb. Here's the subject, new piano. And here's the adverb here. We're talking about its location. Or I can just do a WH question. Where is the new piano? So there's my WH question, and there's the subject. Okay, and there's the be verb right there. All right, so you might want to keep this slide handy at some point as you're doing the exercises that are in the book. And if you're not sure whether you should use do or be, just take a look at the list that we have, and I think it's going to help you a lot. Okay, finish the exercises that I have assigned, and we'll see you in class.